people just ask a simple question of what they're being told. How could it be that there are so many people, tens of millions, that still to this day, after everything was wrong, will say, I don't care, just tell me what to do?
Right, right. And I think a part of that is that it's easier to listen, and there's an element of that where people don't like personal responsibility. You know, personal responsibility is hard, freedom is hard, right? And it's easier to blame all of your failures on, well, it's because of COVID, because this person didn't get vaccinated, or otherwise, like, we would have been doing this. But I do think it's starting to go the other way, and that the more that we showcase these videos around the world, and people are starting to see, wait a second, this could very well happen here, because my belief from the very beginning has been that COVID was about, the spreading tyranny. COVID was about the government seizing more control in a radical way, and they never waste an emergency, and we're still dealing with the residual effects. You still cannot get on a plane in this country without a mask on, despite the fact that you can in Europe, right? This is not about science anymore.
What happens when they try to re-implement this
Wow, I didn't even know that. That's very interesting. Very interesting.
nationwide? The red states just absolutely refuse.
Right.
Ron DeSantis, of course, would refuse. And we've got elections coming up where it looks like we could even have a Republican governor in Pennsylvania. So these things they're doing might backfire on them. My greater concern is I think people in New York, California, Illinois, and these deep blue states, Washington and Oregon, are going to just be like, sure, okay, whatever. Red states are going to say absolutely not, and then we're just going to have hyperpolarization in this country. It's resulting in people fleeing blue states to red states. Mm-hmm. But that's also, and it's also problematic though, because it is, I would assume, mostly conservative-minded individuals or libertarian-minded individuals who are fleeing from blue states to red states. This means blue states become deeper blue, red states become deeper red, and then the polarization splitting this country apart just gets worse.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that is what's going to happen. Or you hope, I think that what I've at least been seeing is that a lot of people that were more in the center are being pulled over to our side. So it's actually not just there you go. It's not just the conservatives that are fleeing. It's just people that said, hey, man, like, I'm old school liberal. I don't agree with children mutilating their bodies. I don't agree with any of this stuff, and I want some say so in what my children are learning in schools. And so they're moderates that are now being called far right.
Right. Yes.
Joe
right
Rogan.
And Joe's fairly left.
He was a Bernie bro.
I mean, I was adamantly in support of Bernie.
Yeah, I was just about to say, Joe Rogan, he's like on the left side. He's a leftist. You know what I'm saying? I still mess with Joe Rogan, though. You feel me? But the thing with Joe Rogan, though, he's one of those leftist people that are not, he's not extreme. Like, he's not all the way on the extreme left side. He's on the left side, but he's not extreme with it, how some people are.
2015 and 16. Then I think Bernie sold out. But I think it was Ravi Starbuck who made this point that the things they're showing kids in schools, if you went to the workplace and you showed this book to a coworker, you would be fired for sexual harassment.
Right. Well, and that's what I keep encouraging parents. I'm like, I get all of these emails from parents, and they're like, I've sent an email to the principal. I'm like, have you tried going to the police station? Because you're actually not allowed to do this. If somebody showed this to your kid on a playground, they would be arrested. And parents haven't yet realized that, and I think it's going to take that sort of a radical response. Because let me tell you, if anybody shows anything sexual to my child in school, mom's not calling the principal. Mom's calling the police, and you are going to be charged, as you should be charged, for being a disgusting human being.
Nah, that's facts. I'm doing the same thing. But I think what I might do is I might take it into my own hands at first. I don't know if I'm gonna call the police. Don't get it twisted, but it might be some physical altercation that takes place as well. You get what I'm saying? Because God forbid I find out that my daughter is in school. Well, first of all, I'm really trying to have my kids be homeschooled. That's what I really want. I want my kids to be homeschooled. I don't want them going to public school, because the public school system in general is very corrupt. And, because of how society is now, they're brainwashing and indoctrinating a lot of little children into these LGBTQ ideologies, these gender ideologies. And I don't want my kids getting trapped in all of that. Like, I don't want them being indoctrinated into that. You feel me? Like, I don't want my daughter coming home to me from school one day and she's like, Dad, my teacher said that I can be a boy. Is that true? Like, don't tell my kids that. Don't say stuff like that to my children. That is not in your place as a human being to say stuff like that to my kids, man. Don't do that. You feel me? And if I find out that my son, you feel me, he's being indoctrinated by all this LGBTQ, this gender ideology, sexual education stuff, at a very young age, there's going to be some problems. That's all I'm gonna say. It's gonna be some problems. And what's gonna end up happening is I'm gonna end up going to that school, and I'm probably gonna end up hurting the person that told my children that stuff. Cause you have no right to talk to my kids about nothing sexual. They're children. They're coming to school to learn how to add, how to multiply, how to subtract, how to divide, how to read. That's what they're coming to school for. They're not coming to school to learn about sex. You weirdo. You creep. You pedophile. Don't talk to my children about nothing sexual, man. If I ever find out, all hell's gonna break loose. That's all I gotta say. That's all I gotta say. All hell's gonna break loose.
Yeah. There's a weird argument.
I don't play that.
Arisen where, it's the Mott and Bailey, right? They're saying, but we just want our kids in our schools to understand who we are, and it's like, well, you don't need to talk to them about sex to make that happen. And the crazy thing about what's happening in Florida, this parental rights and education bill, there's a meme going around. It's a map of the United States. Every state is blue except Florida's red, and it says the blue states are where grooming is allowed for all ages, and Florida is the state where grooming is allowed grades 4 and up.
I know. It doesn't go far enough. I mean,
Yeah.
I honestly don't think it goes
Wow.
far enough, and that's what's so funny. Everyone's debating this this bill, and I'm going, actually, my issue with this doesn't go far enough. It should not be just until the third grade, and suddenly they can start talking to you about sex. How about you're not allowed to talk to my child about sex ever? And Thomas Sowell does a really good job in his book of talking about the time before sex ed, before sex education. Children were graduating high school, the majority of them, with their virginity. And then suddenly there was this radical push in the 70s to say, oh no, we have to talk to children about sex. And there was this lie. It literally was a lie that was created. They're doing it anyways. Very few kids were actually doing it. And then within the decade following that introduction of sex education, which was sponsored by Planned Parenthood, suddenly all of the kids were doing it. So sex education really isn't about...
Oh, Planned Parenthood. That's what it's called. I was saying Parent Plannedhood or something. I was saying it the opposite way. Forgive me for mispronouncing it earlier in the video, man. Oh my God.
Educating your kids about sex, it's about sexualizing your kids. And because we weren't there for the beginning, the genesis of it, parents aren't really aware of the fact that the system has always been predatory. It's just that we're more aware of it now.
Yeah, I think one of the issues we see here, aside from the insanely egregious behavior that these bills are starting to uncover, it's been happening for a long time. And parents didn't know, so it worries me as to how long things like this have been going on. These books that actually show overt sex acts, why is that being handed to a child who's 5 years old? And I will say the one thing that's rising out of this, which is going to result in more moderate and even liberal individuals voting Republican, whether for better or for worse, is they're seeing Democrat personalities actually defend it and of presenting 4 and 5 year olds with sexual information.
Yeah.
I'm like, these are 5-year-old kids. But I'll tell you, what this may be a hard thought for people. I tweeted about it. We talked about it on my show. When they bring 15-year-old girls in for a double mastectomy because these young women say that they're trans and they don't feel comfortable in their body, that's a permanent surgical procedure on a child. Would they give a 15-year-old boy breast implants if he said that he wanted them?
Yes, the answer is yes.
I wonder about it, though, because I feel like that's a question that might actually make parents question. Would you give? Let's talk about some of these other children who are getting puberty blockers. Would you give a 12 or 13-year-old child cosmetic surgery, breast implants, or something like that? It seems like that's where
the answer is yes, and it's already been there, by the way. And this is why I say people don't see the weeds between culture. Like, people can't make the connection of your child, learning about sex in kindergarten and like why we're outraged about Cardi B on stage. The culture has become sick. When she's performing WAP and talking about her vagina, right? The culture has become sick. We have a cultural illness, right? And it's working in conjunction with the classroom. There's no separation. There's no delineation between Hollywood and what's happening in the classroom. They're overtly sexualizing everything and making it seem like this is the norm. It's not normal. It's not normal to have children seeing this when they watch the Grammys. Seeing 2 women. I'm referring to Cardi B's performance that I was pretty outraged about. We used to just be able to watch the Grammys and not see this sort of stuff, this sort of a display. So I think it's interconnected. I do have good news for you, though. The future, in my opinion, and maybe I'm just wrong, I'm just some dude, right, is going to be way more conservative than it's been in maybe 60 years. The reason for it is not just that parents are seeing what's happening with their kids and saying, no. It's purely demographics.
Well, let's hope that's the case, man. Let's hope society does become more conservative because the way society is right now, bruh. You got men out here thinking they can get pregnant. You got trans people indoctrinating little children. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's just it's too much, man. It's too much. It's too much, man. Hopefully things get better, but he has more hope than I do because I believe things are going to get worse and worse and worse. You get what I'm saying? That's just what I think.
In the early 2000s, conservatives were having, I believe, 2.01 children per family, and liberals were having 1.74. Based on that alone, you give it 18 years, there will be more new conservative voters than liberal voters. So you wonder why it is these schools are so intent on this grooming and indoctrination. It's because the progressive left doesn't have children. In fact, not only do they not have children, they're substantially more likely to abort their own children before they're even born. Right now,
That's interesting, and when he puts it like that, that actually makes a lot of sense. That's very interesting. Very interesting. You know, people that tend to be pro LGBTQ, people that are pro abortion, people that tend to be on that side, those be the same type of people that are against marriage. They're against having children. Uh they're open to being, sexual. You know what I'm saying? They take their sexual they're the type they're the type of people that embraces their sexuality. You feel me? These are the same type of people that tend to be very promiscuous and very irresponsible when having sex or participating in sexual activities. You get what I'm saying? So that definitely makes a lot of sense. You get what I'm saying? And also, these are also the same type of people that tend to be against religion too. So they're against religion, they're pro LGBTQ, they're pro abortion. You get what I'm saying? Yes. That's what these type of people are. It's unfortunate, but this is what I'm saying, man. And the society is being controlled by those type of people. That's why if you say anything about the LGBTQ, you get canceled immediately. Why is that? We live in a society now where you can't even have your own opinion. You can't even have your own opinion on something. They say, it's so funny because they say that we have freedom of speech, right? Obviously we don't, because if we really did have freedom of speech, then you wouldn't be canceling me for going against LGBTQ, which I am. I am against them. And I ain't afraid to admit that. Yes, I'm against LGBTQ. I don't agree with their ideology. You get what I'm saying? And believe it or not, there are other gay, lesbian, trans, whatever people out here that also don't agree with the LGBTQ. See, what some of you don't realize is that not all gay people are on the LGBTQ side. There are gay conservative people out there. There are lesbian conservative people out there. It's not a lot, obviously. It's rare, but they're out there. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to put that out there, man. But yeah, man, that's interesting that he said that.
The birth rate has dropped dramatically as of 2020, but conservatives still have a disproportionately large amount of children relative to the left. So give it another 18 years, and a lot of this stuff is going to be phased out so long as parents make sure they're going to schools, they're watching what their kids are learning, or they're homeschooling their kids or putting them in pod learning where their neighbors come and they have like a local community school. But if these parental rights and education bills succeed, then the future is going to be pulled way back to the right. Now the left will scream and say, oh no, the far right, talking about family values, hard work, personal responsibility. I'm talking about any weird, ultra-traditionalist dictatorship. But that's what they'll try and claim. That if they can't sexualize kids in schools, it's going to be, indoctrination, or it's going to be fascism or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I think the future is going to be, it's going to start pulling back to the direction. I think we're actually seeing that now with shows like yours, with the growth of shows like mine. I've never been a conservative in my life. I grew up in Chicago. I was an anarcho-punk when I was a young kid, became more moderate, And now I'm like, you know, I used to like watching Bill Maher and Jon Stewart, but now they don't even pay attention to what's true anymore. So I don't watch them. I take a look at, you know, I explain it like if I'm sitting in the couch and I got a person to my right and a person to my left, and I'm, you know, growing up leaning more to the left, one day I wake up and the person on the left is just so far left, they're out the building. And I just don't even know where they are anymore. And I look at the guy on my right and I'm like, I guess you're the only one here I can talk to because I don't know what they're doing anymore. That's how I feel.
As a working mother, I take advantage of every opportunity to save time and money. And if you're following me on Instagram,
So I'm going to just end the video off on that point because this is an ad right here. But all I got to say is to end the video off is that, listen, man, I already know what I'm going to do when it comes to stuff like this. You get what I'm saying? If you, as an adult, if you feel comfortable talking to little kids about their sexuality, you are weird. You are weird. You are disgusting. You're weird. You're disgusting. And I'll tell that to you right to your face. You're disgusting. There's nothing okay with talking to a 5-year-old about sex. Or 8-year-old about sex. Or a 10-year-old about sex. There's nothing okay with that. They're children. They're kids. That's not what they need to be learning about. What they need to be learning about is how to read, how to write, how to add. This is stuff that they actually need to learn. Why are you telling them about sexuality? Why are you talking to them about stuff like that? You creep. You weirdo. You get what I'm saying? But, yeah, man, I'm going to just end the video off on that, man. I'm sorry if I seem a little too passionate about these things, but, you know, it's these type of things, man, that really gets me riled up because I'm telling you, man, when I have kids, I'm going to be on top of this stuff, man. I'm going to be on top of this stuff. I'm not playing around with this. And I advise all you people out there, if your parents or not, if you have kids, right? Or you don't, or you plan on having kids, I would hope you plan on having kids in the future if you're young, or if you already have kids and you're watching this, please pay attention to what your kids are learning, man. You have to be aware. You have to be aware as a parent. You feel me? Just pay attention. You get what I'm saying? But yeah, man, that's the end of the video, man, and I'm gonna see y'all on the next reaction.